So today we're going to go ahead and start lesson 6.5 day 1, and we're starting to solve multi-step equations. And solving multi-step equations just means simplify both sides first. We learned that with expressions. And then once it's a two-step equation, you just work farthest away from the variable. Now, in doing this though, in solving an equation like this one here, so we're solving this equation. We're isolating the variable to see what x is, or what the value is for the variable right here, to make this equation true, to make this side equal 7. That's what solving means, right? And in doing that, along the way, we're going to run into one of these equations while we're solving. So a question like this, where they say which equation is equivalent, they're saying when you're solving this, which one of these would you run into? Or the longer way to do it is, if you were to solve all these equations too, which one of these has the same solution as this one up here? And that's 5 different problems. So I'd rather do it the first way I explained to you than the second. So let me take a look at what I mean. So when I'm solving this multi-step equation, I want to simplify both sides first and then make it look like a two-step equation. So remember, simplifying both sides, we learned that earlier, where if we just looked at something like this, we learned that we distribute and combine like terms. We're going to do the exact same thing for this multi-step equation. First, we're going to do our rule for subtraction. And pause this video as you need to take notes. After you do your rule for subtraction, we're going to distribute that -4. So we see here that -4 times x is -4x, and -4 times 2 is -8. And notice that the other information that we're not using, we copied down, right? We copied this stuff down, we copied this stuff down. We only did that one step of distributing. So now that we've distributed, we combine like terms. So that's we memorize those steps. How do we simplify? Distribute and combine like terms. That's how we simplify. So we distribute, we combine like terms. The like terms are the constants, right? The numbers with no letters, constants. And remember, they are on the same side. So we separate our left and our right sides from our equation, so we know if we're doing something to both sides or not. Since these guys are already on the same side, don't do any inverse operations. Don't think opposite anything. Just add them together the way they are. And we can use teams because we did rule for subtraction in this step, so we know we can use teams right here. Now, when they're on opposite teams, we subtract. And we ask ourselves who has more. This time the positives have more. That's why it's +5 instead of -5. So 13 and -8 become 5. Where are they? They're both in there. They're both right there in that number right there. So it's the same equation. It's just more simplified. Now that the left side is simplified, right side is simplified, now it looks like a two-step equation. We're used to that. We'd go ahead and isolate the variable next by subtracting from both sides. But all we're really trying to do for this problem here is see which one of these will we run into. And it looks like we'll run into A. So the answer for this one would be A. Now, our real focus today, though, is to solve multi-step equations. So I want you to, right now, let's go ahead and pause the video, and I want you guys to try to solve this first equation here on your own. So the way we solve multi-step equations is we simplify both sides first and then just do what we've been doing all year, right? Work farthest away from the variable. So I'm going to go ahead and copy my equation down. And I'm going to go 10 minus 5, parentheses x plus 8. And I'm going to do the rule for subtraction wherever there's subtraction. Not if I see a negative number, like on the right side, that -45. I don't need to do rule for subtraction there. That's not a subtraction problem. It's just a negative number. But right here, there is a subtraction problem. So I'm going to draw 2 sticks there. Add the opposite. So it's going to look like this. So -5 is the same as plus -5. Now, I don't need to do the rule for subtraction inside these parentheses because it's already an addition problem. Therefore, there's no need to convert my parentheses to brackets. So I'm going to distribute and combine like terms. That's how we simplify. I'm going to copy this information down that I'm not using yet. So this 10 over here, copy down, okay. And I'm going to multiply negative 5 times x to get negative 5x. I can always put a plus sign in the middle of everything when I do rule for subtraction up here. So negative 5 times positive 8 is negative 40. So I distributed. Now I'm going to combine like terms. We'll add constants to constants, right? We can't add x's to constants. X's are in the x family. Constants are in the constants family. I'm going to use teams again over here, right? I'm adding numbers together. Can do that because, again, we did rule for subtraction over here. So I have 10 positives and 40 negatives. Opposite teams mean subtract. Negatives have more, so it's a negative 30. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and continue solving this problem, and it should start to look familiar to you. Now it's just a two-step equation. So I'll work farthest away from the variable. Now this is where I do inverse or opposite operations, right? If it's negative 30, I add 30. Now why is that? Because if I have 30 negatives, 30 positives, they cancel out. And remember, my whole goal is to get rid of all the numbers on the same side as the letter. Over here, opposite teams subtract, negatives have more. Again, we just did teams like we did earlier. Okay, now we divide by the coefficient, not by the constant. Now I'm not dividing both sides by that negative 5 because the negative 5 is on the left side. I'm dividing by the negative 5 because the negative 5 is the one that was next to the letter. And remember, solving an equation means isolating. Isolating means getting rid of the numbers next to the letter. And negative divided by negative is positive. So did you get the right answer this time? Let's see if you can do it again, or if you didn't, pause the video, do it again until you get it right before you try this next one. Otherwise, everyone pause the video now and solve this equation. So again, we're solving multi-step equations right now by simplifying both sides first and then solving a two-step equation. So we're going to make it into a two-step equation first, something that we're familiar with already. So we'll separate our left and our right sides of the equation. So if we know, we'll know if we did something twice to one side instead of once to each side. Now I'm going to do the rule for subtraction here. I know I'm going to put parentheses inside parentheses, so I'll convert this outside set of parentheses into brackets. They're the same thing. I'm going to draw two sticks here, add the opposite. Minus 3x is the same as plus negative 3x. In parentheses, because we separate, we alternate, I should say, parentheses, brackets. So it's not so dizzying when you look at it. You had a bunch of parentheses that look kind of confusing. So now we'll distribute and combine like terms. In other words, we're simplifying both sides first. We simplify both sides of an equation before we try to solve it. Now 4 times negative 3x, some of you would write negative 3x here. Remember, you're distributing that 4. You have to multiply that 4 to that negative 3x, so you should actually get negative 12x. And now we can combine like terms. We'll use teams. Positives have more. Right? Negative 5 and positive 8 is just 3. 8 take away 5 is 3. Now I got a two-step equation. Right? There's one variable, no like terms, both sides are simplified. So I work farthest away from the variable first. And since there's no other plus or minus here, I don't need those parentheses anymore. I take away 3 from 75, I get 72. Divide both sides by negative 12. And I get, remember, positive divided by negative. And it's fine if you guys wanted to whip out your calculator right now. I'm okay with you guys doing that at this point. You get your answer, and we get an answer of negative 6, right? Because negative divided by positive is negative. Let's try one more. Let's solve one more multi-step equation. Pause the video. You guys try this now on your own. All right, let's see how you guys did. We'll go, let me copy it down first. So I don't see any subtraction problems in there. I do see a negative number, but it's still an addition problem, right? There's no minus signs in between any two terms. Therefore, I don't need to do rule for subtraction. I'm ready to simplify by distributing and combining like terms. So I'll go 5 times this, and I'll go 5 times this. If you're wondering why don't you multiply the 3, because the 3 is not next to. Next to means times, right? It's not next to, it's separated with a plus sign. It's a different term. So I'll multiply these. 5 times negative 5 is negative 25, plus 5 times 6m. Don't put 6m down there, put 30m, because you got to multiply that. You have to distribute that 5. So we distributed. Now we can combine like terms. Okay, so constants to constants, those are opposite teams, so I'll subtract them. Negatives have more, so I believe I should get negative 22 there. And now it's a two-step equation. I'll work farthest away from the variable. Now I'll do inverse operations. Now I'll do opposite, right? Up here, I didn't do opposite. If it's negative 25, I didn't add 25 to 3 to get 28. But when I'm moving something to the other side, or I start solving the equation by isolating, then I do opposite of what I see, because opposites undo, and undo isolates. So I'll go ahead and add these two. I get 10, carry my 1. I should get, what, 12? And divide both sides by 30. And we should get an answer of 4. X equals 4. So that looks like that's it for today. We will see you guys soon.